Hello, I'm Sam Grover, Associate Counsel here at the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Welcome to this week's episode of Ask an Atheist.
And I'm Colin McNamara, Legal Fellow at FFRF. This week we're going to be talking about state church violations that pertain to police departments. But before we get started, we'd just like to remind you that this is a live show and we need to get your questions on this topic. So if you want to send in a question, you can do so right here in the comment section on the Facebook page, or you can email askanatheist@ffrf.org.
Right. So we receive quite a few complaints about violations coming out of police departments. And we're going to highlight a few of those today for you. And the first two we have been in the spotlight this week because they relate to that viral lip-syncing challenge that has been going around on Facebook. Both the Hollywood Police Department in Hollywood, Alabama, and the Crandall Police Department in Crandall, Texas, participated in the challenge and posted videos of their officers lip-syncing to Christian music on social media. These videos included explicit endorsements of Christianity, as you'll see. And why don't we just kick it off? Let's take a look at the Hollywood, Alabama police video.
Brace yourself.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there.
A lot. First off, I'd like to just say I think we all feel just a little bit bad for the officer in the video because he did not know when he chose to film that with a camcorder in one take that it was going to get over 7 million views on Facebook. So, I'm guessing he'd like a second bite at that apple.
Yeah, well, nice artistic shot of the sky there, too. That was lovely. Other than that, that's where my compliments end.
No, well, that's not true. Our video clip didn't show it, but that video does have a lot of the officer interacting with a police dog.
That's true. There is another cast member, yeah.
His choice. He
is a good boy,
really,
definitely.
A good boy.
What's funny about that one is, to be fair, it's not really the Crandall or the Hollywood Police Department. It's one guy from the Hollywood Police Department who seems to have taken this on himself. Although I believe he's the chief, isn't that right?
He's the chief, and they may only have one other officer.
That's true.
It's not a particularly large department.
This is not the Hollywood you've heard
Sorry,
of.
One other officer plus the good boy police dog.
The good boy police dog. If you're gonna dance for God, don't dance like that. That's
right.
My only tip.
Yeah.
The jokes practically make themselves, and we could do this all day, but we should probably move on to the next clip.
Sure. So the other video we have is from the Crandall, Texas Police Department. Let's roll it.
All right.
Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so long to see a revolution somehow. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow.
Wow. They really captured the enthusiasm of the Newsboys in their, their really expressive, emotive body posture. And
There was one guy
wow.
who was into it, clearly.
Yeah, there was one guy who was into it. Also, the police chief.
Again, the chief, correct.
A little bit of a theme running here, where actually the start of that video, which we didn't play,
Yeah.
is sort of the other officers making fun of the chief, with the chief in on it,
Right, of
about
course.
how the chief's the one who chose what song they were going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad because we don't see it in that clip, but actually at the beginning of that video, they show a guy come out and sit at a drum set and like getting ready to drop the beat, and then two guys jump out of cop cars, and that video looks like it'd be a lot more entertaining, but they fake you out and they don't actually do that. And then I think it cuts to the chief saying, "Just kidding," and then they go into "God's Not Dead"
By the Newsboys.
by the Newsboys.
Yeah.
I just had a terrifying thought, Sam. What if us making fun of this becomes the plot of the next God's Not Dead movie?
Fortunately, you can rest easy because I'm pretty sure that franchise has burned to the ground at this point. They did not make money on their third movie.
That's
Yeah.
good news, I suppose. Well, there was. Okay, again, we're making light of this. It's very silly.
Well, let's unpack some of the things that were in that video then.
Right.
So, in addition to the sign for God's glory that they chose to dance under,
Yeah.
you've got a cross or a crucifix on the wall. I think that's in the police department.
Looks like it, yeah.
On a black wall with the thin blue line. And then you have an officer reading the Bible. We didn't show all the shots of them, raising their heads to the heavens or with hands clasped in prayer, but all of that's in there, all of this religious imagery. And we've written letters to both of these police departments about these violations because they are very clearly endorsing religion. They're endorsing the personal religious beliefs, in this case Christianity,
Right.
of the officers in the videos, or at the very least of the police
The
chief.
police chiefs, it seems. Yeah. And that is troubling. I mean, these are law enforcement officers, people literally tasked with enforcing the law, and here they are, kind of flaunting the First Amendment. So, it's worth. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth taking action on, I believe.
Right.
Another thing you may have seen in that video as well is that they kind of linger for a bit. I believe it was in that clip. If not, I can promise you it's in there. They linger for a bit on the "In God We Trust" on the police vehicle.
Yeah.
And this is a really common complaint we receive. And would you say, to me it seems at least, it's becoming more and more common recently that there's police departments and sheriff's departments prominently displaying "In God We Trust" on police cars. Would you say that's becoming more common?
Yes, yeah. We've received tons of these complaints, and it's definitely ramped up in recent years. And we don't go out, looking for departments that have done this. We get contacted
Yeah, there's
by
a few of them there.
local citizens in these communities that are seeing it for the first time and take issue with it. And so they contact us. So that gives you a little sense of just how divisive this phrase is for people, especially non-religious people. Now, when it comes to us writing letters on it, as it turns out, this is our national motto. So,
In case you haven't heard.
right. As of 1954, it's
Yes.
our national motto, replacing E pluribus unum, out of many come one.
Great motto.
Yeah, great motto, inclusive, captures, the spirit of our founding, I think.
Right, and this, as we often say, and as we've written about, this "In God We Trust" motto is sort of the opposite. It's deliberately designed to conflate patriotism with religiosity. And it sort of implies that if you don't trust in God, you're not a real American, you're not a real patriot. And so we find it particularly troubling. I mean, we've written on this before. It's difficult because there is some bad case law when it comes to "In God We Trust." But we've written on it, and I think it is, in this case, particularly pernicious when it's on police cars and like that. People that are in direct positions of authority endorsing this motto that says that
Yeah.
you have to be religious to be a patriot.
Yeah, I think that is why they do it. I think to sort of blur that line between patriotism and Christianity for the most part.
Yeah.
The religiosity of the phrase is something that regular people understand and recognize.
Right.
And boy, when you see people commenting on why the phrase was added to police vehicles, it's almost always because we're a Christian nation, right?
Yes.
And unfortunately, federal courts have developed this legal fiction where "In God We Trust" as a phrase is not religious.
Yeah, it's ceremonial deism is the phrase, right? Yeah.
Right. And so they pretend that people do not recognize the religious significance of the phrase, and thus they find that it's not an endorsement of religion.
Right. It is a bizarre legal fiction, isn't it? Because the idea is that through rote repetition, this phrase has lost its religious meaning. I think you can prove that wrong really easily. Look at anywhere that's ever had an objection to "In God We Trust." Any town, as you just said, like any town, any police department. I think recently it was in the news a lot in Wentzville, Missouri, where they had the "In God We Trust" across the, I believe it was the city or the county board had it across the front of the desk where they all sit in their board meetings. And someone spoke up about it, and the people in favor of the "In God We Trust" clearly recognized it was a religious motto. And like as you just said, they were citing all the same sort of Christian nationalist legal arguments that this is a Christian nation and therefore we must have "In God We Trust." They weren't defending it on the grounds of, well, it's just ceremonial deism. Like no one uses, in ordinary speech, no one makes that argument. That's something that courts just came up with that is, as you said, a complete legal fiction that doesn't have any real basis in reality.
Yeah. And the other problem that we have with "In God We Trust" as a motto is that it paves the way for worse violations.
Absolutely.
Right? When people see that and in their minds it's a religious phrase, they say, oh, well, if we can have "In God We Trust" on a police car, why can't we have a Christian cross on a police car? Right? And
Right.
Some police departments have done just that and advanced a religious message further. Brewster County, Texas comes to mind, where we filed a lawsuit after we wrote a letter to Brewster County, Texas about Christian crosses that they put on their police vehicles. I think we have probably some shots of those Christian crosses, hopefully.
No, not those. Well,
you
can
just
know what a cross looks like.
Replace the "In God We Trust" messages with a Latin cross, and you get the picture.
A Latin cross. Actually, I don't know if you get the full picture. A Latin cross with the thin blue line across it.
Right.
So directly associate, a prominent symbol that people use to represent the police of like the blue line. It was a black cross that had the blue line across it. So
Right.
directly affiliating it.
Yeah. So they put that on all of their police vehicles. We wrote a letter saying, hey, you cannot be endorsing Christianity or religion in general on police vehicles.
Right.
The county didn't do anything about it. And it turns out we had two officers within that department, Jesse Castillo and Kevin Price.
We have a picture of them there.
Yeah, Jesse on the left, Kevin on the right, who took issue with being in a department where they would be more or less forced to drive around with a Christian symbol on their vehicles. And so we sued and quickly settled because it turns out Brewster County did not have a legal leg to stand on.
That's absolutely true.
And as a result of that lawsuit, the crosses came down, and Brewster County paid us for our legal fees.
Right.
Yeah, that's just an example of how "In God We Trust" can embolden bigger violations.
Absolutely. So, we've had a little bit of fun. We've made fun of some of these things, but but it's commonly asked of us in situations like this, with things like "In God We Trust" or with stickers on cop cars. Why is this so problematic? Why go after this? So, what is your thought on that about why police departments endorsing Christianity or religion in general is an issue?
Yeah, the main problem with it is that law enforcement agents are tasked with dealing with citizens during some of their most vulnerable times in their lives, right?
Right.
they need to be even-handed and ready to serve all citizens, and citizens need to be comfortable interacting with police officers without fear that my personal non-religious or minority religious beliefs will somehow get me second-class treatment from the officers that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, and this comes up a lot too with sheriff's departments that Sam and I have both dealt with, because oftentimes sheriff's departments run the county jails. And when you have county sheriffs endorsing religion, it's even more troubling in a sense too, because the inmates that are in those jails literally rely on the sheriffs for their lives. I mean, the phrase captive audience is a pun we often use, but it is actually what's going on. I mean, they are literally a captive audience. Their lives are in the hands of these sheriffs. They depend on them for their food, shelter, and clothing. And if they think, it's extremely coercive, right? If they think that playing Christian or playing to whatever the sheriff's religious beliefs are is going to get them better treatment, I think anyone would do that. It's the reasonable thing to do in this situation. So that extremely coercive aspect of it is what makes it even more troubling. And we deal with this a lot with prisoner cases, both state, county jails, and at the federal level.
Right. But that same element of coercion exists outside of the prison context as well.
Right.
Where any citizen, if you get pulled over by an officer for speeding and you've got that video in mind, there's a coercive element there too with your, random daily interaction with an officer.
But also from the thinking too of like Castillo and Price, from an employment perspective too. If you are an officer, police departments are regimented. They're almost. I mean, they have a rank structure. They have almost a military-like hierarchy. So if you have, as we've seen with these videos, what looks to be chiefs, police chiefs at the top, endorsing Christianity, endorsing religion, then naturally that's going to trickle down to the other employees, right? They're going to feel coerced. They're going to feel compelled, more so than in a different type of a more ordinary employer-employee situation.
Right, and I think that sort of a minor level of coercion is evident in the Crandall video, where those the officers who aren't in the center, the officers who aren't the chief, in the clips we played, don't really want to be there.
Maybe we're projecting here, but they don't look too into it.
They don't look thrilled.
I think the tape speaks for itself. Go back and watch it again, folks. They don't look overly enthusiastic.
Right. So there's the coercion that the chief can impose to just get them to be in the stupid lip syncing video.
Yeah.
And that's not an illegal level of coercion. That's just awkward.
Yeah.
But if some of those officers also happen to practice a minority religion or to be atheists or agnostics, then there's an unconstitutional level of coercion on top of that, right? Where the chief is saying, hey, endorse my personal religious beliefs in this video, please.
Yeah. I mean, even our staunchest opponents would agree. I think even people who have a very different view of separation of church and state have just about unanimously agree that coercion, forcing you to do something that's against your religion, is always a problem for the Establishment Clause.
I wouldn't put it past some of our staunchest opponents.
You make a fair point there. Well, I think that's all we have.
Let's go to the questions.
Go to questions. Let's see what we've got. All right. We've got a few here. All right. This is... Oh, here we go. Here's a question from David Earl. He asks, I agree with you, FFRF, but honestly, what does it hurt letting people have and promote their religion? For me, the only problem would be if an officer tried to make me join in prayer with him or denied me justice for my atheism. What do you think, Sam?
All right. So first off, we have encountered those situations where officers ask citizens to pray with them, or it happens more with judges in municipal courts and things, where the being on probation is contingent upon things like Bible reading or things like that.
Or doing some religious substance abuse program, that happens too.
Yes, religious. Yeah.
12-step or something like that.
Yeah, AA, NA.
Yeah.
But the first half of the question, what's the harm in letting people promote their religious beliefs? Our answer to that is we have no problem with people promoting their religious beliefs. We have problems with the government promoting religious beliefs, right? And
Yes.
these are officers acting in their official capacity.
In uniform.
In uniform, using symbols of the police department, police vehicles and police dogs, whatnot,
Right.
to promote their personal religious beliefs. And that unconstitutionally entangles religion with a government office.
Right. I mean, the police chiefs, the officers, they're welcome to go to church every Sunday. Like, no one's saying they can't have their beliefs, of course. But when they are kind of cloaked in the articles of the state, right? You know, that when they are in uniform, they are acting in their official capacities, they need to refrain from endorsing religion at all. So that's all we're talking about here. That's a tough one. I'm going to skip that. So Rebecca O'Dowell via email, thank you for emailing us, Rebecca, asks, tough one to answer. On a scale from 1 to 10, how illegal is this? If the lip sync song wasn't religious, would it be legal? I don't
Yeah.
know if you can do legality on a 1 to 10 scale.
Well,
I'm a little skeptical of that.
Right. So the question of how illegal this is, it's not the biggest violation in the world. The videos are endorsing religion. It's not the same as a sheriff coercing someone in the jail to
Yeah.
read from the Bible.
Or force a baptism on somebody. Something
Yeah,
like that.
right. And so there are maybe degrees here, but if I'm an employee in that police department, this is a big violation for me.
Yeah.
Just as it was a big violation to Jesse Castillo and Kevin Price to have to drive around a police car with a Christian cross on it. Yeah, it's just a sticker on a car, but to them, it's that's their job, right?
Yeah. I mean, they are in effect being forced to almost, metaphorically speaking, wear it around their neck everywhere they go. That they, no matter what their individual beliefs are, while they're at work, they are endorsing Christianity.
Right.
And you just can't force someone to do that. That's
Yeah.
obviously a violation.
And again, we're not trolling the country for these violations. When we're getting complaints from local people
Yeah.
about "In God We Trust" on these police cars, and so even if it seems like a petty thing to write about, it's not for the people that we are effectively speaking for
Yeah.
when we write these letters.
Right, so we have Jeff St. Clair Sr. asks, what does trusting God have to do with law enforcement? We need to be able to trust our law enforcement agencies to give and courts to give equal justice under law. Not a question so much as a statement, and I agree with it. Trusting God doesn't have anything to do with law enforcement.
Yeah. One thing I could add on sort of riffing off of that
Sure.
is we get complaints often about law enforcement agencies partnering with churches for sort of religious programs, like sort of religious revival type walk the streets
Yeah.
programs and things like
Prayer
that.
walks and
Prayer
yeah,
walks,
yeah.
police church partnerships,
Yeah.
things like that. They're, it's fine for members of the church to partner with the police department to do community building things. It's not permissible for the police department to help the church promote its message.
Right.
And that's what we often find is happening with those partnerships. They're using the machinery of government to promote one religious message.
Right. All right, so Amber Burns asks, come on, why can't these officers just have a little fun? With all the stuff cops have to do, they're just letting off a little steam. There are bigger fish to fry. I feel like we're retreading some of the ground we've already trod here, but I mean, okay, yeah, it's, as we just said, they are very silly. These lip sync videos are very silly. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had so much fun making fun of them. But I think what your point about "In God We Trust" is valid here too, in that you kind of like James Madison said, right? You have to be suspicious at the first experiment of your liberties. Within God we trust, as you said, it's like sort of opens the door for bigger violations to become more emboldened. And yeah, these are silly, but I think it's the same kind of thing. You should speak out against this kind of thing early and often, so that they don't become more emboldened to take it further and further and further until it does reach that. I think it was coercive for officers involved, but until it reaches a coercive level to the general public, I think that is, might get accused of tilting at windmills, but I think that's fair, that you should definitely hop on it early and often and have your say.
Right. We're also not on a crusade against the lip-syncing videos in general, though perhaps someone should be.
I think perhaps someone should be, yeah.
Yeah,
These are not great, guys.
But there are...
I haven't seen a good one yet.
There are dozens and hundreds, maybe, of these videos that aren't promoting religion, right?
Yeah.
Lots of police departments figure out a way to engage with their community and do this fun, atrocious thing without making it also be illegal, right?
Yeah.
They're picking secular songs, and
I've heard Uptown Funk is a very popular one for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen very many of these. I'm not going to subject myself to that because they are mostly pretty cringeworthy.
There's one Uptown Funk one that's pretty good, I think, from a department in North Carolina.
Somebody leave it in the comment section. I'll watch it later.
Yeah, there you go.
Final question. Oh, God. Lauren Stangl asks, will you be doing a lip sync counter challenge with atheist songs, I Challenge You?
Oh, right. No.
No. What? Absolutely, unequivocally no.
It's not going to happen.
Just not going to happen. Don't ask again. We are not touching this.
I'm glad we covered that.
I'm glad. That needed to be said.
Yeah.
One more time for the record. No. Anyway, that's all the questions we have. And that's all for Ask an Atheist today. But before we go, there are just two quick items I'd like to mention. First of all, FFRF's upcoming convention is going to be in San Francisco, California this year, November 2nd through the 4th. Speakers include, and there are a lot of great ones, author Salman Rushdie, former director of Planned Parenthood Cecile Richards, Mythbusters host Adam Savage, actor John Delancey of Star Trek fame, co-founder of the Ex-Muslims of North America, Sarah Hayter, along with comedians Leanne Lord and Julia Sweeney. If you'd like to register, please go to ffrf.org/outreach/convention, that address right there. Also, if you'd like to take action on issues in your area, please sign up to receive FFRF text alerts on your smartphone by texting FFRF to 52886. Data rates may apply. Again, that's FFRF to 52886. I'm Colin McNamara.
I'm Sam Grover.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be live next Wednesday at noon Central Time for another edition of Ask an Atheist.